Hey, how's it going there? Troy here with Big BB LLC. I did an event this weekend called the Pickin' 15 where I had some guns and some suppressors displayed. I wasn't able to sell them, but I can display them and talk about them. And if I didn't hear this question about a dozen times, I probably wouldn't even be making this video, alright? But I don't know how many people have come up to me and when I had the display out and said, I thought suppressors were illegal. No, they're not. Alright, and I had to educate a lot of people. They're only illegal if you don't pay the government their $200 extortion tax. Suppressors are very legal to own. It is kind of a pain in the butt, unconstitutional process, if you ask me. Basically, you're paying the government $200 and waiting in 7 to 10 months now is what they're down to, just so you can exercise your fundamental constitutional rights. That's why I call it a very unconstitutional process. If it's constitutional, it's part of your freedoms, you shouldn't have to pay for it. But I digress. It is a very lengthy process. We need to fill out the Form 4. It takes your fingerprints, a passport photo, $200. The last 4 that I've got back approved were right at 7 months. And when it comes back, you get paperwork like this right here. That's a Form 4 approved tax stamp to own one of these bad boys. Alright? And so, the myth is, I guess, that suppressors are illegal. They are not illegal. The illegal part is having an unregistered suppressor, or something that the ATF cannot control, which, I won't even get into my thoughts on that one, but we're there, right? But it's not illegal, alright? It is a process. There is a extortion fee. You pay the government to own it. But there are a couple of options out there on ownership. One is you can do it as an individual, which means I go in there and I fill out my Form 4. I get it back. I own this suppressor, and only I can have the suppressor, which means I can't lend it to my buddy and let him go off with it. I have to be there with it. Other people can use my suppressor, but I have to be right there with it. The other questions that come up are about ownership. If something were to happen to the individual who owns this, say they died, whoever inherits it can go through a Form 5 process to get it in their name. It's tax-free. You don't have to pay the $200 again. And basically it just transfers ownership from the deceased owner to the beneficiary. The other way you can do this is with a trust. If you generate a trust, which I have the ability to generate trusts here and notarize them so you don't have to go running around all over the place, but you put whoever you want on the trust. And so when one member passes away, the other people that are on the trust remain unaffected, and anyone on the trust can actually take that and go out and play with this by themselves, because there is no individual owner. The trust is the owner. Alright? What I recommend a lot of people do is when you set up the trust, you set it up with one person, because whoever's on the trust, they all have to do their fingerprints. They all have to do what's called an RPQ, which is a responsible person questionnaire. They all have to submit passport photos. So I recommend when you set up the trust, you set it up with one person. That one person does the RPQ, they do the fingerprints, they do the passport photo, get the trust in. Once it's approved, you can come back and modify that trust. You can add and remove whoever you want, whenever you want, without having to go back through this process. So that's why I recommend it. It is not a way around it, but that's kind of how trusts work, is because the trust owns it, and regardless of who's on it and who's not, the trust will always own it, right? So that is one way to get around it. And like I said, we do that here. We try to make the process as simple as possible for our customers. We are a one-stop shop. So they are not illegal. That is a myth. These are wonderful devices that have many benefits. One of those benefits being no ear protection. This is a .45 caliber with a GSL Python attached to it, chambered for .45. All right. And as you see, there was no hearing protection, and it wasn't. It wasn't so bad that, if anyone has ever shot a .45, you'll know that is an ear-splitting caliber. That thing is loud. With that suppressor on there, you cannot use hearing protection and you're just fine. So that is one of the benefits of having a suppressor. And as you heard already, you did hear the shots, so it's not like what people think it is. It's not Hollywood. It's not that, right? You did hear it. You're always going to hear it. But it's not so bad that it's going to rupture your eardrums anymore. So that's one of the benefits. One of the other added benefits is it increases accuracy. How does it increase accuracy? Because the recoil in this thing is much lower. If you ever shot a .45 before, you know it has a recoil, right? Well, with that suppressor on there, it kind of feels like I'm shooting a 9mm. So that reduced recoil can lead to better accuracy. There are many benefits to owning a suppressor. I encourage a lot of people to own them, not just because I sell them, but because after getting into the suppressor game and after shooting suppressors, I've become a huge fan of these things. Alright? But I did want to take the time to come on here. I did want to take the time to dispel the myth about suppressors and legal versus illegal ownership, because that's all I heard this weekend was, I thought suppressors were illegal. They are not. You just have to pay the extortion tax to the federal government. If you do not like that, what I recommend you do is you contact your representatives and your senators and tell them that suppressors do not need to be on the NFA, and they need to be dropped from the NFA. We, the people, have the power. We can make those changes. All we got to do is call them. The problem that I see, especially in my own community and even around here, is we're too lazy to even pick up a phone and dial a number and tell them that. So that's kind of on us as the American people. Until we stop being lazy and until we start standing up for our rights, they're always going to be treaded on. So, with that being said, I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my morning. I got a couple of guns I need to Cerakote. Y'all stay safe, shoot straight, and if you got any questions, leave them in the comments below. I answer every one of them, all right? We'll see y'all later.